Hello, viewers, and welcome to the Fiz Show Season 2 Wealth Management Series with Carrick Wealth Zambia. In studio again today, I have Carmen Hachandi, Managing Director of Carrick Wealth. Carmen, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Cedric, and how are you?
I'm good. I am very excited to have another conversation with you. I am learning so much. I am really learning so much.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yes.
I'm excited to be here as well.
Yes. So we continue our discussion on offshore investing today. Now, Carrick Wealth positions itself as a partner in creating generational wealth through offshore investing. But what does generational wealth mean to Carrick?
All right. Thank you, Cedric, for that question. Generational wealth, from our perspective, is creating wealth that you are able to leave behind sustainably in the long term for future generations. So this is wealth that will outlive you, outlive your children and their children. And because of that view, planning for generational wealth is a long-term project, if I may call it that. And it's something that must be done actively and with the view of ensuring that there is enough money left, enough wealth, enough assets left for the next generation to access, to make use of, to also grow and multiply that wealth and leave it behind for the next generation. So when we talk about generational planning, we're not looking at short-term effects or macroeconomic fundamentals that exist today. We look at what is the precedence that has been set. We look at historical performance. And from historical performance, we can deduce future performance. And it's on that basis that we should be looking at planning for generational wealth in order for you, my viewers, my clients, to preserve, protect, and grow generational wealth.
Wow, that is very, very rich. I love the term generational planning, so you plan for people who are not even there.
Indeed.
I think that's very powerful. So how does investing offshore accelerate wealth creation for your clients, and what time frame is the most ideal for planning your offshore investments?
Okay. Let me start with the time frame. And do we, or you, Cedric, envision a time when Zambia, South Africa, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Malawi would outperform the performance in terms of macroeconomic stability, security, regulation, would outperform a developed nation's performance? Do you envision such a time? If your answer is no, or yes, but in 100 years, what does that then imply or entail? It entails that you should be doing something about it, because in our current lifetime, your lifetime, our future generations' lifetime, that scenario will not exist. Therefore, it remains our core role to continue looking for ways and means on how to protect and preserve the value of the wealth that you're creating.
Wow, that's very, very enlightening, actually. So why is Carrick focused on long-term offshore investments? How do long-term offshore investments address the needs of your clients?
So our focus with long-term is in view with our goal of helping 100,000 African families pass on generational wealth to generations to come. And hence why we are bringing solutions that are focused on long-term financial planning that will earn you returns in the long run that outstrip any return that you can earn in an investment locally. And also the security that comes with those investments, the tax benefits that come with those investments, the well-regulated markets that we're taking you to, in which these investments will grow sustainably into the long term. These are tried and tested markets.
I love the vision of 100,000 African families. That's very, very powerful. As an African myself, I look forward to being among those families.
Yes.
But one of your offerings as Carrick Wealth is property investing in the UK. So why is UK property a generational wealth investment strategy?
Okay. So as you know, property is a long-term investment because of the nature of the capital that you have to put in to construct, build, buy a home or property. The weaknesses we see with property locally is that the returns do not compensate for the amount of money that you've invested in that property over the long term because of the factors that we've spoken about earlier, inflation, currency depreciation, which then erode the value of the wealth that you are creating locally. So why then am I saying UK property is an option for you to preserve capital in the long term? Number one, you're also putting in a lump sum amount of money to buy a property offshore. This property, and the UK markets in particular, have been known to double in value in 10 years' time. So number one, you have an asset that is sitting in pounds. Pound is a stronger currency than Zambia. And if we project into the long term, will probably remain so for a very, very long time to come. And if that is the case, it means that your asset is appreciating because you live here and your expenses are in Kwacha. When it appreciates in 10 years' time, what does it mean? When it has doubled in 10 years' time, what does that mean for you, our viewers, our clients who've invested in this asset class? It means that the value of your wealth has doubled in real terms, in hard currency. As opposed to, say, a property value doubling here, we would then have to say what is the real value and not the nominal value. We factor in inflation, we factor in currency depreciation compounded over a period of time, which erodes the value. Another aspect of UK property and why you should get into UK property is the rental yield. There's a 5 to 7% growth in rental yield annually on your rental income. And I must also mention that you would only be putting in 30 to 40% equity stake, and we would arrange a 60 to 70% mortgage provider or financing for the balance of the cost of the property. I am therefore saying that I'm giving you access to a property that costs close to £400,000, but you will only be investing around £100,000. The rest of it will come through a mortgage.
Wow. I think before we get into that, is this buying property as a pool of investors or is it buying as an individual?
Thank you for that. You will be buying the property as an individual. It will be, the title deeds will be issued in your name. Yes, there's a mortgage on it of around 60 to 70%. However, the interesting aspect is that you have the full benefit of any capital appreciation on this property as you are the ultimate owner. You have the full benefit of the rental yield coming out of this property. Imagine being able to earn £1,000 every month from a property in the UK and you're retired. You're sitting at home and £1,000 hits your account. You then rush to the bank and change the £1,000 to Kwacha at whatever that projected exchange rate could be. In the last series, I was comparing Zambia to Nigeria and saying, number one, Nigeria is one of the largest economies here in Africa. And exactly 15 years ago, Nigeria had an exchange rate of 19 naira to the dollar, which is somewhere where we are today. Today, the Nigerian naira is sitting at 400 naira to a dollar. So where can we project Zambia to be in 15 years' time? I leave that open to the audience. Imagine earning £1,000 rental income every month, out of which your mortgage interest repayment is made, because these mortgages are interest-only mortgages. So you're not paying out any of the capital, and that's predominantly because the strength of the project or the basis on which this mortgage has been awarded to you is the strength of the property. The property markets are so strong in the UK that the financiers are willing for you to only pay back interest. That reduces your repayment burden, and you don't have to pay anything over and above the equity stake that you've put in, your 30 to 40% equity stake for the rest of the life of that mortgage. The only thing you're doing is the property manager will source the tenant, receive the rent, pay off the interest on the mortgage, get their cut in terms of the service fees, because they are looking for the tenant, they are fixing everything that's broken in the apartment. And by the way, these are brand new builds, state-of-the-art, modern apartments that have been constructed from scratch. So these are not old council houses in the UK. Once they've deducted their service fee, paid off the interest on the mortgage, you actually even remain with some money which they then deposit into your account. So you're seated here in Zambia and money is just flowing into your account. You don't have to lift a finger to manage the property, to fix anything, to look for a tenant.
So you talked about a mortgage. Now, how does a Zambian here access a mortgage in the UK?
That's a very interesting question. You know, I've even been asked questions such as, is this legal? Or I lived in the UK for so many years and I never knew there was such an option. Well, some things are the preserve of, a certain class of people. Yeah. You won't hear about it until somebody tells you about it. And that is why we're excited to be on the Fiz Show, to be able to share with the masses out there that with a bit of planning, you can access anything anywhere in the world. So we bring a mortgage broker to your doorstep who will be able to assess your credit worthiness and be able to determine the rate of interest that you pay on a mortgage in the UK. The mortgage broker then sources this financier on our behalf, on your behalf. Remember, Carrick and you are one. Our goal is to grow the money together. When your wealth grows, when you preserve your wealth sustainably into the long term, Carrick's assets under management also grow. So we are looking at advising you on investments that will bring you a return, that will grow your wealth and preserve your capital. So the mortgage is accessed through Carrick Wealth, through our partners who are offshore companies.
So is a mortgage in the UK more affordable than one in Zambia? How do the two rates compare?
That's a very good question. When you look at the macro fundamentals that we've been discussing, interest rates, inflation, they're more stable in developed worlds. And the cost is much, much more affordable in the developed worlds. In Zambia, I believe a mortgage could cost you anything, in bad times, even 30%. In bad times in the UK, a mortgage will cost you anywhere between 5 to 7%. And that's when inflation has been elevated. But when inflation is normal, when we talk about normal inflation in developed countries, we're talking about a core inflation of 2%. You could have a mortgage at 3-4%.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very, very enlightening, actually. Yeah. More people need to know about this.
Indeed.
So thank you, Carmen, for this insightful information. And thank you to our viewers. But before we wrap up, do you have any closing remarks?
Yes, thank you, Cedric. Yes, I would like to just reiterate, we are now on our third session of this season, and it's important for us to go back to the message of why offshore. When we talk about offshore, we're talking about capital preservation, we're talking about diversification and growth. And important also is to differentiate between wealth creation and wealth preservation. So what we do at Carrick is wealth preservation strategies. What you're doing here in Zambia, which we are not stopping you to do, is creating wealth. So we would like you to continue to create wealth, to do your day-to-day hustle, to do your projects, to work and earn a living. And when you've done that, we are here to help you diversify your investments to a net worth of about 40%, should be sitting offshore in secure jurisdictions where you're getting tax benefits that are well regulated, and you will achieve your aim of capital preservation, growth, and diversification.
Wow, that's quite a call to action for the viewers.
Yes.
Go and generate wealth.
Please.
Go and create wealth.
Indeed.
So this has been Cedric Chuuma for the Fiz Show Season 2 Wealth Management Series. And in this particular segment, I was joined by Carrick Wealth Managing Director, Carmen Hachandi, who really urged all of us to create wealth. Thank you so much, and looking forward to seeing you in our next episode.
Hi, welcome to East Park Lifestyle Studios. Come in.
Oh yeah.